Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show. It is January 12th, 2026. I had to look at the calendar there for a second. It's Monday. We appreciate you guys being here. I'm here with Andy, I'm Brian, and we will be your co hosts for the day. We'll see if anybody else pops in the door, but it might just be Andy and I. But that's okay. We're ready to have a great conversation along the way, talk about all things AI. And as we typically do, we want to start off the show by talking about some of the news items. Some of them come out over the weekends. You just never really know with AI. It doesn't typically take Saturdays and Sundays off, but also things just slip through the cracks that maybe we didn't have a chance to talk about earlier. And Andy, I'll tell you one of the ones I would love to kick off with. Because I used it this weekend and I was just really impressed with it, is 11 Labs came out with their Scribe V2 real time and also just Scribe V2. And what this is what they're calling their most accurate transcription service ever, or model ever, rather. Just so happened, I'm working on this other project. We usually call it Project Bruno when it's on the show here, but I was literally working with transcription and running into some issues, trying to figure out if I was going to use one of OpenAI's model. And lo and behold, 11 Labs showed up at the right time, the 11th hour, and said, "Hey, we have this new model."
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? I didn't even mean to. They said, "Hey, we have this new model. You should come check it out." And while I have not run a ton through it yet, immediately I was like, "Yep, this is where we need to be. This is what we need to be using." So I'm all connected to the API and pushing stuff through it. But they're saying that it's the real time version is optimized for ultra low latency and agent use cases. So its name is V2 real time. It's meant for real time, right? And Scribe V2 built for batch transcription, subtitling, and captioning at scale. Guess what I need? So that second one, V2, is going to be like I said, it's already proving its worth. Much more testing to do, but just wanted to throw that out there because I literally used it over the weekend.
Yeah, good. So a couple comments. One is that transcription of audio is important not only for using it against media that's generated and doesn't have captioning, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, getting a speech to text transcription out of something is pretty well established. You get stuff, but 11 Labs has always been at the forefront.
Yeah,
and in terms of accuracy and fluency, let's call it. The question is whether in the long run, we don't even think about that anymore, except in the narrow context of where you want to place captioning or text somehow in association with audio. Because, one of the uses that we have for getting the transcript out is in order to allow large language models to then process the transcript text.
Correct.
As opposed to the audio. But multimodal LLMs are going to be able to work in straight audio, with better and better facility. And so eventually you may not ever need to do that intermediate step of getting a transcription. You'll just feed the audio and or the video with audio directly to the model and then have it processed that way. If it needs to capture a full transcript, great. The model can decide to do that because it understands what's being said. But we may bypass that step, especially as voice interaction with AI becomes more and more prevalent among users.
Listen, you're 100% correct. And I know where we are currently because I've literally been stress testing these models. And so if I give Gemini Pro a 30 plus minute MP4, so certainly not giving it a stripped out audio. And my request is give me a what we would call a VTT level transcript, meaning that it's not like what you would get from Glasp if you just went to YouTube and YouTube did it. You're going to get a timestamp every 150, I don't know, like every 10 seconds, you're going to get a timestamp. That's not nearly tight enough, of a transcript, right? So a VTT. Now, if we download a .vtt from this show, which I do every day, that has almost line items, right? And it doesn't necessarily do diarization where it pulls out your name or mine. Anyway, if I throw this into Google at 30 minutes, what I found at least is that unless you use some advanced movements like chunking and some other things, it has creep in it, and the timestamps slip, and
Uh,
so it will try to do it, but it can't really, even though that has a huge context window, and the video might only be less than 200 megabytes big, even in AI Studio, I was running into issues. So the solution for me right now, but you're right, which is not going to be the long term solution, is I rip the transcript out first, and then I do processes after that that are both transcript based and audio visual based for that MP4. And I have found that 1-2 punch is sufficient.
yeah. Now, question. Clearly, timestamp accuracy is really important for
Yeah.
retrieval and presentation or
Yes.
extraction of a segment from a video, a long video. Um, and you're saying that when you do this sort of multi-stage process,
Mhm.
that gives you more accurate timestamps. Is that the main benefit of that?
That is the main benefit, and also you're by doing that, you're asking the multimodal model just to focus on just the transcript first, as opposed to asking it to maybe do one or two things at a time, which is to say, an example would be, give me the top 5 transcript timestamps where people were running, right? I don't know what your video is going to be about, whatever, right? Whatever it is. And so as it stands, Gemini happily will try to do that by looking at clips of it and trying to literally watch the video, for lack of a better word, and also listen to it. But when, at least in my case, when you layer that on top of also trying to get accurate timestamps, that part slips. And so an example over the weekend would be that I was sitting down watching college football and also vibe coding at the same time. And what I would run into is that a 37-minute video would show me timestamps at 45 minutes, 47 minutes, which obviously can't be true, right? So then I dug into like, well, why is this happening? And ultimately, what I got back to was, at least in the terms of Gemini, which is the most advanced model for this type of work, this multimodal work, that it was just having a hard time. So my workaround is pretty easy. It's just a 2-step, which is go get me a VTT like best in class level transcript. Although Vibe 2 from 11 Labs is better, so that already handles that. And then once that's set in stone, you're not looking at something that's sort of mid level coming from YouTube. It's a really good Andy said this, Brian said that, or at least speaker 1, speaker 2, even if it's not picking up our voices. And then that's like your I don't know, your rock. There's the place you keep going back to, because like you're like, that's validated, right? That's a validated transcript. And then what I'm able to do is use that as my sort of, I don't know what I would call it, like your center point, right? And you go, okay, go look at do this stuff with the video, but it has to match back to this transcript. Go do this with audio, but it has to come back to this transcript. And at least in my early testing, I haven't gotten through all this. I found some um, really good results with this 1-2 punch. So currently, I intend to use V2, Scribe V2, to do the first pass. And then I basically am using that transcript to do further effort, which is great because the transcript is only text, right? So it's a couple
Yeah.
kilobytes, it's done. But it's so important that it's right and that there is no creep in there, because even for somebody like if you or I were going back and wanting to do editing to this episode, and we're talking about V2 right now, even being off by 10 or 15 seconds would be really annoying from an editing standpoint.
Oh yeah.
Like all you've done is gotten me close, and now I have to still watch the video.
That's
So
a huge amount of slippage. That's
right,
like
exactly.
wrong. That's not the clip. Yeah.
And what you see is that as I've seen for months now, at 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, they're dead on. 15-minute slips 2 seconds. 30 minutes, it's slipping a minute and a half. And
Right.
that's why you're getting those like 42-minute timestamps on a video that was only
Right.
37 minutes long.
Right.
So anyway, just interesting stuff. Wanted to bring this up first because I was like, oh, here's a news story and literally something I got a chance to play with. I have another one that I got a chance to play with this weekend, but let me throw it over to you. What's sort of like a top news story that you wanted to bring up this Monday?
Yeah. So what I'm very interested in is this new paper from DeepMind called Patchwork AGI, and a lot of a lot of newsletters and commentators responded to this Patchwork AGI thing because DeepMind's focus on this was that patchwork AGI is going to emerge before a single model achieves AGI. So it's no longer a race just among the major frontier model providers. It's who's going to create the harness and the sort of a collection of agents that collectively demonstrate artificial general intelligence. So it's no longer just the domain of the frontier model trainers. There are others who will be able to achieve this AGI. And I'm going to harken back to our discussions last week about a small startup called Poetic, Poetiq, that aced way beyond what the frontier models have achieved on the ARC AGI 2 benchmark. And they did so by using the existing models, including 5.2 and Gemini 3.0 and Opus 4.5, and working them together in a multi-agent kind of system to ace the test. When I say ace, I mean they ended up at state of the art.
Yeah.
And way beyond the level of state of the art of any one model that had been trained, and assisted in training. You'd be capable of doing that. Now, DeepMind's approach to this and what gave rise to a lot of concern and commentary is that DeepMind's thesis is that this is going to happen. And that's where we're going to see AGI first. And that means that alignment and safety is no longer the responsibility of the one model developer who's creating something that could be AGI. So now we have to completely rethink, and DeepMind, of course, did deep thinking with their DeepMind on this question, and they addressed the entire sort of ecosystem of systems and regulations and protocols and support that would be required to keep artificial general intelligence in these multi-agent systems, in check and in alignment with human interests. That is very interesting, but I'm more interested in, wait a second, are we already seeing AGI in systems like the one that Poetic demonstrated? And will we now see a dramatic acceleration towards AGI, and that AGI may in fact come in this year as a result of improved orchestration, improved harnesses for multi-agent actions. And what's happening there behind the scenes is, there's protocols emerging that are making it easier and easier for agents to work with each other and to consult with other, even remote agent systems, agent to agent from Google and so on. And somebody's going to build a very, very smart AI intelligence that isn't confined to working with a single model. It's not like Prometheus, right? In the Max Tegmark Life 3.0 book. It's not going to be one model that achieves this and becomes superior to all others. It's going to be everybody's out there figuring out how to use all the now interconnected tools in AI to achieve AGI with a master orchestrator on their desktop working with agents that are distributed around the world.
Yeah, and isn't it kind of what we all want anyway? Don't we want to be able to, in a single, the common user, when it comes to AI, go, hey, I need to solve this problem. And do we want it to ask us, well, do you want to solve that problem with Gemini, or do you want to solve that problem with OpenAI? Do you want to solve that problem with Claude? And the answer for the common user is, I don't care. Like all of the above. Like there's us in the bubble, and there's things that we like to play with and stuff. But if you're looking at outside the bubble, I think most people are like, I don't know, call it Prometheus if you want. I don't care what you call it. What I care about is the result. And if you're telling me this is a mixture of experts and models on the backside, and this one's going to do this part, and collaboratively the net result is a better output, I would think most people would be like, yeah. And I agree with you. I don't know about AGI this year, but ooh, man. And Claude, by the way, not Claude, Karl. Karl joined us as well. Hey, Karl, welcome.
He's like Claude, though. He's really smart. And
that's why when I see Karl, I think of Claude. That's what it is, But what I was going to say is I do feel like we're at this weird, didn't see it coming inflection point right now. I feel like we're sitting on top of it. I do think Claude Code, as I've sort of, and I have not dug in yet. I haven't done what Karl has showed me. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to. But my point to this is, and this we maybe we'll bring this back up after more news. But anyway, I think we might look back in a few more months. Maybe we already are, and look at the rise of Claude Code in its current state as being akin to ChatGPT 3.5 being a release to the world. Here's the correlation I think there is. OpenAI did not realize that it was going to be as big of a deal as it was, right? They had ChatGPT models previous to that, and it didn't seem that many people cared, but there was something unique and different about, well, it was 3.5, right? That I think came out at that time, or maybe 3. And people noticed and said, oh, whatever, and then boo. And I feel like we're there again. And I think Claude Code is accidentally going to be that inflection point where people go from, I wasn't really going to touch this lovable thing or this whatever I keep hearing about vibe coding, but man, I don't really know much about how to write a prompt or whatever. And all of a sudden they're realizing, you know what? Just tell it what your goals are and let it go do its thing. And then when it comes back to you, tell it where you think your goals are again. And it's pretty intelligent and is capable of figuring out what it is you're trying to get at and accomplish. So I don't, and that may in fact lead to an AGI. I don't know.
Well, let me ask this question of you both. Is there really a material and substantial identifiable difference between Claude Code, Anti-Gravity, Claude Codex, and a host of other coding focused multi-agent systems out there? Is it really an inflection point that's been generated by Claude Code, or does Claude Code just benefit from a really good framework right now that allows people, even non-technical users, to implement Claude Code on their desktop, and that's kind of a little bit of a breakthrough? But is Claude Code really racing to the forefront, or is there general equivalence across these major coding offerings that I just listed?
Well, one of them has to be the one that breaks through, right? And so what I'm saying is, I don't know that I have not tested enough to have a qualified answer on that, honestly, Andy. But what I would say is that what I feel like I'm seeing is, at the time that 3.5 came through, I am sure that it was not the only language model in existence at that time. I don't know the other ones that existed. That's the one the world knows. That's the one that woke up the world. And maybe on a smaller scale, obviously, but I do feel like Claude Code seems to be the tool. Maybe it's rightfully on top or not, that is waking up the world to this next level of set it and forget it possibilities. And Ethan Malik is basically saying this daily in his LinkedIn post. Hey, I just start the morning with some sort of I will tell Claude Code to build a new game for me. And at some point during the day, I circle back to it when I have a 15-minute break and I want my mind to release, and I play the game that Claude Code made for me. And he's like, I do this daily as just a fun thing to do. That's a very set it and forget it type thing. He didn't have to sit at the terminal and keep saying, yes, no, yes, that's not what I meant. Let me write the prompt this way. And I think that's telling. I think that's telling of where we are in early 2026. And
I
it's
like
the
the phrase
stage.
set and forget, or in the military context, fire and forget, right? An autonomous missile, once you release it, is fire and forget. So a fighter pilot can release a missile that has been given an objective, which is this specific target that it was painted for, and then go about, identifying other targets and going after those. So we're getting to the point where AI agents and AI assistants are approximating fire and forget capabilities, and under your control. Like, you can say, well, no, I don't want you to just continue without my approvals through every step that leads up to this objective. I want to have you check in with me periodically. So you have that choice. Or you can just give Claude Code, for example, blanket permissions to do all the actions that are necessary on your file system, on the web, etc. And another news item here is the new Universal Commerce Protocol from Google, including up to you go ahead and spend my money out there without any prior approval. I have confidence in you. That's kind of fire and forget AI.
Thoughts, Karl, before we move off this one? Or
it's hard for me to I don't know, to say, because I don't know, I've been living in Claude Code for like a couple months now, and yeah, literally spent my entire weekend doing a bunch of Ralph Wiggum stuff. But trying to figure out, like, trying to see it from the eyes of a non-software engineer, someone who doesn't code, it probably looks the same. And I know people are saying, oh, don't worry, it's just in the terminal, it's so easy to get started. Like, not really easy to get started. Like, it really isn't, right? Even I was thinking about, as I was demoing to you, Brian, to you and Jennifer, just at that, I was trying to get myself out of my own, like, I was just trying to get a perspective on all of us. I'm trying to teach you this, and it's like, it's a lot of stuff, right? You have to go to Claude Code, copy the bash command, then you have to go into your terminal, or you have to go to Cursor, or you have to go to Visual Code Studio, install it, and then even when you install it, you have to open a folder that you wanted to access. Then you're like, okay, what do I do now? And it's like, there is kind of a little bit of intuition that you have to run it, and that you could do this with Codex as well. It's really not hard, but like, in when I say not hard, in the same mold, but for the regular person, if you think about it, all the people on LinkedIn saying, oh, you should just do it as easy as, like, there's a reason why no one touches the terminal. Like, there's a reason for it, right?
Yeah, but they're also building they have built a desktop, right? And the UI is only going to get cleaner and cleaner and easier to use. I think,
by the way, you asked that question, during that videotaped demo that you did, Karl, to Brian and to Jennifer. And that question was, should I use Terminal or can I use Claude Desktop? Which one's better, for someone who's non-technical? And Claude Desktop, I asked Claude Desktop, that same question while I was watching your video.
Yeah.
And Claude came back saying, making a pretty clear comparison, and basically providing assurances that it, as Claude Desktop, could do 98% of what I want to do, without having to complicate things by going to the terminal. Now, I will say that just even setting up Claude Code in a package that includes the Ralph Wiggum's sort of autonomous to completion framework, that did require that Claude Desktop tell me that now you need to go and do this in terminal.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do that for you. Here's what I can do. and here's what I can't do that you're going to have to do, but I'm going to give you all the details of what to do so you can copy and paste them into terminal to finalize the setup of this system.
But even that act alone of you going from desktop to terminal and like still in terminal and in desktop to do that and to see like when a person's never like worked through that, that's very, very.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I would not ask my wife to learn how to use Claude Code in terminal. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, right? I agree with you. I mean, my wife would be like, "Let me know when I can play with it on my phone." Yes. You know, like that's fair. You know, like she's really great at what she does with AI. I mean, poor woman is stuck with me. But to be fair, she's a dietitian, so I have to listen to a lot about food. So it goes both ways. But you know, she's super intelligent when it comes to the AI stuff. But you know, she's not gonna open up a DOS prompt. Now, the difference though is like some of us have been doing this almost literally most of their lives, and so I was. The reason this is fine for me now and not for everybody probably is because I was the kid in the 90s dialing up bulletin board systems and the precursor to the internet. I literally had a phone book on my desk and you could call local numbers and you had to wait for the call back from the computer and you're on a 2400 modem, if that. And, you know, you would dial up to these literal one-off pages. And so that required DOS commands and stuff like that. And that was fun to me. That was like tinkering, you know? So I think for the people who are the tinkerers who don't mind that, this suits them just fine. They go, well, I can find my way through this. But my point to all of this, and, you know, Greg and Gareth are talking about this in the comments too, is like, how many months before this is a non-issue? You even laid it out, Andy. You were like, oh, I could do 99, but I can't do that. Well, it will. And we know that.
Yeah, and even right now, I think it would be useful, and everybody who's listening to this can just go and get the Claude desktop. I think you'll want to have a paid plan with them, the $20 a month type plan with Anthropic Claude, but get the Claude desktop application, and it has 2 tabs. It has chat and code. So Claude Code is built into that. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go to terminal. And for almost anything that you can imagine doing, that desktop application from Anthropic is going to be able to do it. And that is an important step to having an AI assistant / agent that is, the chat is the assistant and the code is the agent, right? You'll have the combination of those in a way that it can work on files and folders in your system. It can look at your Gmail or other email accounts. It can operate in those. And then on top of that, it can also go out and do deep research and use the web. So the desktop plus the Claude Chrome extension, for example, if you're a Chrome user, the combination of those things is sufficient now to give you a really competent platform on your machine.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll bring up what Mike says here in our comments. And thank you, Mike, because you reminded me of something that was in the news. So nice little circle back here. Claude Code is lighting up X, et cetera, these days. They just disallowed usage of the flat rate max subscription, the OAuth, in third-party tools such as OpenCode. As a few days ago, you must use API keys. And yeah, I heard the same thing. And I honestly forgot about that. So thank you, Mike, for taking the time.
Yeah, let me add one to that, which is you can use Claude Code in Cursor, and anybody can sign up to use Claude Code. You have to have a paid subscription to use it intensively. But programmers at xAI, which is Elon Musk's company that's building Grok, had been using Claude Code in Cursor, and it became this. Somewhere within Anthropic, they figured this out, that they were using Anthropic's models as part of their development of the X models,
right?
Not training data or anything, but the coders were using Claude Code. And so Anthropic cut off X's access.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. Like if you're Anthropic, that makes like a lot of sense. And look, the last thing I'll put up, and Gareth had brought this up. I don't know, Karl. Sometimes you know the names off the top of your head, but the guy who's the creator at Anthropic of Claude Code, that guy straight up said 100% of the code for Claude Code came from Claude Code over the last 30 days. So he literally said, I'm using Claude Code to improve Claude Code. Like straight up, 100% of the coding in the last 30 days. And this is from the guy who created it. And there's a whole podcast about him talking about how like it's sort of an accident that it ended up where it is. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know from a coding standpoint, and somebody had a comment on underneath one of Ethan Malick's posts, and he said, this is what I did. It was a response. And he's like, blah, 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 whatever it was he said he did. And then his last response was, I just don't know how any developers or coders survive this.
Do you remember, I don't know, 6 months ago, Dario Amodei said 90%, he was up to 90% or more whenever that coding will be done like by AI. And at the time, I think there was a lot of like people snickered and like, no, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, he's got it within that time frame. You're pretty much seeing it. Because I remember do you remember ChatGPT's year-end whatever, you got those things? Someone OpenAI said they entirely built that entire thing using Codex on the app's SDK. So I was like, that's proof there that they're literally using all their tools, both to do their stuff. So, and Gemini's using Claude. Like, it's kind of funny how like, so yeah, it's
by the way, I think there's a lot more people using Claude Code at competitors than just X. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's probably, if that is the tool that coders or developers like and seems to be doing the best, I wouldn't be surprised if people building llama models are also trying things on Claude Code. And that's not to take away anything from the brilliant minds that are out there, men and women who are doing stuff, but it wouldn't surprise me. It's you kind of know it's the tool of choice right now, and a lot of people are using it. Okay, I do want to.
Before we go on, I think let's just take a quick sidebar here to honor Boris Cherny, who is the senior product engineering leader on Claude Code at Anthropic. And just to give you an idea of how, a person in this new AI world can go from being a kind of a line, top end senior software engineer at multiple companies and then become a rock star by building something that then becomes so valuable to everyone, literally in the coding world. So he was 7 years at Meta as a principal software engineer, but not Meta AI. He was at Instagram and on Facebook groups doing server architecture and developer infrastructure. Now that's the key term here. He was working on tools for the people inside Meta to help them build for Instagram and Facebook groups. And then he moved over to Anthropic, and then he, as something to help himself, he used Anthropic's tools to build Claude Code, and then it propagated within Anthropic and then became a whole product line that went out to the world. So now people will remember Boris Cherny's name in the annals of coding. And he just, he followed a trajectory up to including building something that's really quite remarkable.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to bring up, before I move on here, just because Gareth put it in there, Gareth said the platform I created was written 100% by Claude. I will say, I don't think the general user could create what I created. And then he followed up and says, you do need to know somewhat what you're doing to make sure the backend is set up correctly. Gareth, 100%. There's still a divide between even, anybody going in and playing around and vibe coding, for lack of a better term, to make something that just they're going to use, as opposed to something that's maybe going to be forward facing to somebody who's going to be paying money. And I agree with you. Yeah. And I 100% agree with you. And in fact, to me, that's no different than what I currently create with AI. What I do for clients in sales and building things for sales, it's not that nobody else could do it. It's that at this point, currently, there's still a divide between my ability to work with the AI tools to build the solutions that they need that are foolproof or as close as I can get it versus them being able to do it inside using exactly the same tools. Hell, in a lot of cases, I've literally given them the same instructions, but they can't come out with the same results, right? And so that's the knowledge side of it. And I agree with you, Gareth. Okay, I want to bring up another news item that we talked about last week, but I got access to it over the weekend, which is ChatGPT Health. So got a nice little notification that said you now have access. I said, great, let's play around. And I will tell you, I was pleasantly surprised with it. I'm certainly not hours into it at this point, but what I did not expect it to be able to do, and it did, was there is a large database of healthcare networks that you can log into, and it uses a third-party tool called B.well, that it tells you about and says, look, you're agreeing to this, all this stuff, right? So there's nothing shady going on from that side of things. And anyway, what it does is it connects, and I was able to connect to, and it's not like the physician that I go to, the physician's office is local to me, and it is not part of a larger network. I had zero problem being able to connect to it. It took maybe 30 seconds, and then I was able to directly ask questions against my healthcare records to it.
That's great.
I find that to be awesome. And so, in terms of other things you can do is you can upload other documents. I have plenty of documents sitting around that I think I would like the health to know about. What I couldn't do, I couldn't connect to like Quest Diagnostics, which I found to be like oddly weird that wasn't set up. Quest is sort of LabCorp. There's others out there where you can go get your general blood work done. And I thought, oh, that'd be interesting. Now it pointed out to me, hey, that Quest lab work was also sent to your primary care physician. So you do still have it regardless. And they were right. I was able to ask questions about my last 3 or 4 sets of blood work and get really detailed answers, great follow-up questions to it. Haven't played with it enough. Totally understand why people would be concerned about having, giving access to your personal health data and all that. But I, for one, as of right now, intend to, go deeper with it and really sort of stress test it over the next couple of weeks and see how it can be of value to me. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. A couple other points on the healthcare front. One is that just after OpenAI launched their GPT healthcare, Anthropic just launched Claude for healthcare. So it's also a HIPAA compliant offering for providers and for insurers and for patients. And it connects to medical systems. But, I haven't used either ChatGPT Health or Claude for healthcare. And it'll be interesting to do that. One of the things that is starting to be enabled by this collection of information from multiple healthcare providers into your ChatGPT Health or other sort of AI-assisted interpretation of all of those factors is the predictive abilities of analysis across a very large assemblage of data across many, many, ultimately millions of people. And so I want to hearken to another thing that I read about over the weekend, which is that Stanford did something with AI with all of the sleep study information that they've done from Stanford's, sleep study system. Right? So you can go to a hospital and you go for an overnight sleep study, and they hook you up to all kinds of monitors, and they watch what the patterns are of your sleep. Now, let's note that, as Beth mentioned when she talked about sleep studies a few days ago, you don't sleep that well when you're hooked up to all these monitors. Yeah, nonetheless, that information is now correlatable with all of the health information that Stanford has that you can now have access to, obviously, for your own account. But they did it across, millions of people who have done sleep studies. I don't know if it's actually millions. It's hundreds of thousands probably that Stanford's done over the last 20 years. And what they were able to find with AI is that there are markers that human analysts couldn't really see, but there are markers in the patterns of all of this data coming from the sleep study that has a very high predictive value for certain conditions. And so they could predict with good accuracy, like 0.8 probability of accuracy, that you would have this health condition if you showed these patterns in your sleep study data. And this portends a time when you'll be able to hook yourself up with your, watch and or ring and something else, maybe a little cap that you put on for a sort of remote ECG. You'll be able to track your own sleep patterns, and that will have some predictive value in your health context. And you might be able to identify that, oh, this person, just from watching them sleep and having all these, access to this sensor data, watching this person sleep, we know that this person has the early signs of ALS, for example, way before it could be detected by other clinical methods. So that's pretty interesting. And this is just one method, just looking at the sleep cycles. That now imagine all the information being accessible to a master AI data analysis of all of the health information across many, many individuals, and getting the predictive value out of that. So healthcare is really moving forward here.
100%. I love seeing, I mean, those are my favorite stories. I just read another one in the healthcare front. Although I will say, I'm not sure how AI it was, but it was talking about pancreatic cancer and some other things. And basically they've been working on this for decades, but essentially ultrasonic, ultra low, ultra hyper, I don't know the term for it, but anyway, hyper focused bubbles. And what they're able to do is essentially target different cancers, and they're showing proof of it by basically heating it up and getting it to explode without damaging any other cells around it. And then they found out through doing tests and stuff that the other cells around it have a bit of this reaction effect that says, oh, that's something we need to go attack more because of the way the cells break open and stuff. What? I love reading these stories. And I mean, AI has seems like a new healthcare one daily for ways that AI is starting to have an impact in health,
Yeah, well, technology is moving forward. Of course, our actual, national healthcare systems are going backwards. You probably heard on the news that, the Department of Health and Human Services has recommended now that you eat more meat and more cheese.
Yes.
And that I don't know if I'm going to follow that instruction, but maybe that's in favor of the beef industry, because the beef industry is in decline as a result of, I think, good scientific evidence that too much mammal meat in your diet has bad health outcomes.
Yeah, my wife, being a dietitian, said, she goes, I need more time to digest the inverted pyramid and talk about it. I said, fair enough, because I was asking her opinions on it. She's like, I need more time with it. I thought that's a metered answer, right, from a 15-year plus dietitian. All right, as we're sort of wrapping things up here, I mean, Karl, I don't think you've had even a chance to share any news that I know you were just sort of popping on today. I will tell you, I had some stuff about Meta. Nothing big. Meta announced some nuclear energy projects that are going to potentially unlock 6.6 gigawatts of power. American leadership in AI innovation. I had another real quick thing about how X is restricting Grok's image generation to paying subscribers only after drawing the world's ire. That sounds right to me. I'm glad to actually see that it's been restricted in that way. There was way too many, I think, potentially damaging things happening in terms of being able to create images of people being nude, they would have clothes because the AI is removing them or whatever. And whatever your opinion is on all that stuff, it was way too easy. And I'm glad, if nothing else, it's now at least restricted behind a paywall. I'm sure people have opinions on that, but I'm happy to actually see that. I think it's kind of ridiculous that it took this kind of backlash for that to happen, but regardless.
Well, I know there was a the whole hubbub of if Canada will ban AI, and same with the UK, but I know Canada won't. Our Minister of AI innovation said no, that's not the case. I don't know if the UK will, but I felt like that's for the UK it would be par for the course on something like that. I was like, oh, that's not a surprise. But then Canada's like, oh, that was surprising, but it's not. So that was the only thing I kind of saw on that, which was very funny because if you click one of the videos in like on X and you swipe and it'll go to the next video. Very funny. So I was showing my wife like this. What was I showing her? Oh, it was someone doing something. It was a football joke, and I was just, hey, take a look at this, and she's looking at it, and so I flicked up, and it was like porn, and I flicked up again, it was porn, and she's like, interesting. And so we were just there flicking, and it was nothing to do with the topic that we were looking at, but it was just really, I was like, yeah, X is kind of, it's kind of like, it's pretty spicy for people who are like, if you better be like careful what you, and it's innocuous too, because it's like from football to that. I was like, and then it would switch to some other video, and I'm like, this is very strange.
It's funny, Karl, you say that, as somebody as a 15-year-old, given two choices, and everybody parents how they parent, so no judgment, but given two choices between my daughter saying, can I have a TikTok account, not to post things, but just so I can see what's on TikTok and I can follow TikTok trends, or X, I mean, as a parent right now, 1,000 times over TikTok. And to me, isn't it interesting that we're all worried about the Chinese control and what is TikTok doing and its issues, with government security and stuff. But meanwhile, we have a homegrown X that, to your point, is the wild, wild west. And, if you're an adult, go do adult things and, live your life. But I'm not allowing my daughter on there. Hell no. I'm protecting her from that because there's no way I know what she's going to see, whether it's AI, whether it's real. No.
I personally wish that X didn't have such a stranglehold on the scientific and AI community for a posting platform on which you actually put very important news and information about the developments. And like most serious players in the technology world have an X account if they're posting. And I don't post. I have an X account, but it's sort of not under my name, and it gives me access so I can click on a link that Karl shares in our Slack, so I can go and look at it. But I wish that they would find a way to get off of this cesspool and put that really high quality content somewhere else that isn't interleaved with all of these negative things that are allowed in this Wild West, unfettered, social media platform.
And all the model drops are there immediately. The very first, like everything, if you are in AI and like, if you want to know firsthand about anything, that's where you like, yes, it eventually dilutes to all these other platforms, but bleeding edge and like things are dropped there, right? Every single open source has dropped there.
Yep.
All the model providers drop there first. Everything's first there. Rationales, takes, everything, like new companies drop there in this space than anything else. And it's like, you kind of have to be there to if you want to consume and be up to date, that is the place. And it's interesting that I know a lot of people, they're not there, or they're on private discords, or they wait till it disseminates to another platform, right? But that is the first platform of anything that gets all the model drops immediately.
Yeah, and I'm exactly where Andy is. I don't have, to my knowledge, I don't have an X account or former Twitter account that's under my name. I don't post there. I'm never on there. I literally have it for news drops and things that matter to this show and to my work and stuff like that. Because yes, that is exactly where you're going to see it. But yeah, I mean, it's never going to happen. But I kind of somehow long for like sort of the old Twitter and then split X off into like people who want the Wild Wild West or whatever. And it's I don't know. It's not to be prudish or whatever, but like, is I don't think of myself that way at all. But like, I don't feel like that's a net positive in my life. I certainly don't want it in my daughter's life. Not that she's ever asked, by the way. My 15-year-old daughter is not like, please, Dad, can I be on X? I don't know what hasn't ever come up once ever, you know. But if it ever did, I would certainly have an issue. Gwen's pointing out too and saying like, you know, is it predominantly men on X as it is? And I don't know the stats on that or whatever. But she was saying, yeah, it'd be interesting to see who the persona is for the ideal client, for the ideal customer on X. And I don't know that, but
if you follow sports though, like if you want breaking news, that's still to me the best place to also go for breaking. Like if like for me, I follow a hell of a ton of like football news. So it's like my favorite writers for teams are there. Like I get like, you know, Dave Lombardi, Grant Cohn, like 49ers news, like all that stuff is like you get that. And if you hit your algorithm right and you'll just get that like you'll just get over it. So literally my feeds are AI and 49er news. And it's just like, to me though, and that's why it's weird. Sometimes you get these weird, like, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. But the majority is like, if you keep hitting the same one, let's say 5 or 6 times in a row, the algorithm's kind of good enough to hit you that 5, like the same topics over and over again. And that's why you like, if certain topics are there and you're like, you don't like, there's a strategy behind it because you don't want to linger on 1 or 2 things too long. Because you're like, oh shoot, this is going to be in my feed. I don't want it to be in my feed, but this is something of interest. Because I think I hit like, what was it? There was food fairs. So there was somebody posted something about food fairs, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then, sure enough, within like, I get a whole bunch of food fairs. Like, oh, these are so good, because I want to like take a look at them. And it's like, oh, my feed is now like. Midwest food fairs that I was like, no.
They all need a time out for the algorithm, so you can just like go down a rabbit hole. But that's literally as far as you want to go, so you can get back to your life.
Yes,
that's why I have like
my feed with that. I want it to go back to that, but then if your team loses, you're like, oh my gosh, my feed is full of like, so you're trying to like get out of the feed, but come back later. It's kind of,
you know, X is my same answer as having a gaming system in my house. Would it be fun to have a gaming system in my house? Would I enjoy playing whatever, the Switch or something like that? Sure. Should I have it in my house? No. I don't need that or that deep dive or time suck or whatever, and like it's just better if it doesn't exist in my house. I know me, and I know where my time would get diverted to, and I have other things I need to work on. So well, listen, we're kind of at that time. I think we probably wrap it up. I think we'll just leave whatever the news stories we had. Let's just leave them for tomorrow. I had 1 or 2 other ones. We didn't really get to a ton of them because we got into conversations. But yeah, let's wrap it up there, and we'll be back tomorrow. We'll keep the conversation going. Thanks to everybody in the comments. Thanks, Mike, for the comments earlier. I hadn't seen your name in there before, so if you're new, welcome. If anybody else is new listening to this, just kind of figured out, you know, how they want to get updated and learn about AI, well, this is the show for you. We do this Monday through Friday. We're always here. We're always having conversations. We have a, you know, rotating and cast of characters that come through and co-hosts with different opinions, and we'll be continue to do that through all of 2026 and growing. So come back and hang out with us if you like. If you like to be part of the comments live, come over to YouTube and do that. That's the best way to do it. Like all our friends here that are in the comments who are contributing to the show live. Otherwise, obviously, comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff is always super helpful. But if you want to get into a community of people who are talking about these type of topics, well, we started a community maybe a year ago now called the Daily AI Show Community. Very, very spot on name there. But you can go to the dailyishowcommunity.com and you can sign up for that Slack community. It's free. We literally set it up because, hey, there's lots of us that like to keep the conversations going. It's also the place that if we have things that we want to share from the show, such as Karl's video about Claude Code from last Thursday or Friday, we literally put that directly into the community in the Claude Code channel, so that if you want to learn about Claude Code, well, hey, you can listen to what Karl had to say about it in a video in there. So it's a great place to be, great resource. Highly recommend signing up for it. Like I said, it's free, so it's there for you. And I just kicked back off the newsletters and the Conundrum episodes this last weekend, so you can expect those now every Saturday, as we were. I took a 2-week break over the holidays, but I'm back at it, baby. And we had the Conundrum episode, and Andy did all the editing for the newsletter, as Andy always does. So thank you, Andy, for that. And that newsletter went out on Sunday. So make sure you sign up for that by going to the dailyishow.com. Okay, that's all the things, all the stuff. Come back and hang out with us again tomorrow. Thanks, Karl. Thanks, Andy. And we'll see y'all next time. Bye.